When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he was almost blind, he called his older son Esau and said to him, "Since I am so old I could die at any time." Isaac actually lives for several decades after this. He's probably just being dramatic.
No, 'tis true. Dotage has come upon me like the silence of winter. Nothing can stop the reckless plotting of time, except a steak and a cabernet.
He tells Esau to hunt down some game and make his favorite food, the kind I love. Then I will eat it so that I may bless you before I die. Now remember, in chapter 25, God had told Rebekah that her older son would serve the younger. Isaac should have known that, but he's focused on channeling his blessing to his favorite son. It's also worth remembering Isaac's history as a young man. His father Abraham had been blessed because he did not withhold his son. Well, here's Isaac withholding his son. When Abraham trusted God with the life of his beloved son, God provided a substitute. Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in the thicket. He saw God's provision, the ram that would take the place of the boy. Now Isaac can barely see, and instead of trusting God in his plan of covenant blessing, Isaac chooses to hold on to his son instead. Well, Rebekah's listening in on the conversation. So when Esau heads out, she tells Jacob what she heard. She says, "Do exactly what I tell you. Go to the flock and get me 2 of the best young goats. I'll prepare them in a tasty way for your father, just the way he loves them. Then you will take it to your father. Thus he will eat it and bless you before he dies." It's hard to discern Rebekah's motives, but she's using deceitful means to grasp at a blessing. Later in the Mosaic Law, God would tell Israel this, "Cursed is he who lets a blind man wander in the road." He also says, "You must not curse the deaf or place a stumbling block before the blind, but you shall fear your God." Those passages show that exploiting someone's vulnerabilities or even inaction that harms a vulnerable person is an act of defiance against a merciful God. Well, Jacob protests, but he does so in self-interest. "But Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I have smooth skin. My father may touch me, then he'll think I'm mocking him, and I'll bring a curse on myself instead of a blessing." So his mother told him, "Any curse against you will fall on me, my son. Just obey me. Go and get them for me." So what should Jacob do at this point in time? It seems that everyone in this story has some mixed motives, and it's hard to know who to root for. I think that ambiguity should clue us into something important. These are real, 3-dimensional people experiencing the same complexities of life that we do today. Sometimes we act in faith. Sometimes we act selfishly. We've all missed the mark. So we have to be careful not to read these stories as moral lessons of people we want to emulate, but as a story of God breathing life into dust. And the only character here acting with pure and focused motives is God. So he went and got the goats and brought them to his mother. She prepared some tasty food just the way his father loved it. Then Rebekah took her older son Esau's best clothes, which she had with her in the house, and put them on her younger son Jacob. She put the skins of the young goats on his hands and the smooth part of his neck. It's such an elaborate plot, when God had already promised blessing. How many times do we jump through hoops to achieve what God has already given freely? Then she handed the tasty food and the bread she had made to her son Jacob. He went to his father and said,
"Hey, Pops, looking alive at 25. Me want meat."
Which son are you anyway? Esau or the other one?
Me, Esau, your firstborn.
Did you just wink?
Wait, I thought you were blind.
I am, but I heard the bell sound.
Well, go ahead and eat this, and you can bless me very quickly.
But Isaac asked his son, "How did you ever find it so quickly, my son?" "Because the Lord your God brought it to me," he replied. Jacob uses God's name to sanction his personal agenda. This is called taking his name in vain. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come closer so I can touch you, my son, and know for certain if you really are my son Esau." He's suspicious, but he doesn't see through the disguise. And to seal the deal, Jacob brought Isaac the food that Rebekah had prepared. Verse 25 adds, "He also brought him wine, and Isaac drank." So far in Genesis, we saw Noah and Lot make poor decisions by drinking too much wine. Interestingly, Abraham was offered wine by the priest king Melchizedek, and we see nothing of excess there. In fact, it's followed immediately by his vow to the king of Sodom not to take more than what God has generously provided. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here and kiss me, my son." So Jacob went over and kissed him. When Isaac caught the scent of his clothing, he blessed him, saying, "Yes, my son smells like the scent of an open field which the Lord has blessed." There's one other place in Genesis where someone smells a scent, and it's God smelling the scent of Noah's sacrifice in chapter 8. You also see this phrase throughout the law of Moses. God smells the sacrifices of his people. So Isaac gives his patriarchal blessing, his solemn wishes, and hopes for his son's future. May God give you the dew of the sky and the richness of the earth, and plenty of grain and new wine. May peoples serve you and nations bow down to you. You will be lord over your brothers, and the sons of your mother will bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. Where have we heard that before? It's the promise given by God to Abraham in chapter 12. Now it becomes Isaac's blessing on Jacob. And part of the blessing will be some sort of kingship or rulership. Well, when we get to the end of Jacob's life, he passes that blessing on to his son Judah and shows that there will be a particular king coming from that tribe. So, even though all the human actors in this story are moving in deceit and self-interest, God is orchestrating the events to carry on the line of the promised seed, the seed of the woman who would one day crush the head of the serpent forever. Isaac had just finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence when his brother Esau returned from the hunt. He also prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father.
Father, I made you something good.
What? Who are you?
What do you mean? I'm Esau.
Then who hunted game for me? I blessed him. He will indeed be blessed.
When Esau heard his father's words, he wailed loudly and bitterly.
Father, bless me too. Your brother came in here deceptively and took away your blessing. He will indeed be blessed. Jacob. Jacob is the right name for him. He took my birthright. And now my blessing too. Have you not kept back a blessing for me? Look, I have made him lord over you, and have given him grain and new wine. What is there left for me to do? Do you only have one blessing?
Then Esau wept loudly. So his father Isaac said to him, "Indeed, your home will be away from the richness of the earth, and away from the dew of the sky above, compared to Jacob's richness of the land. And indeed, Esau's people would inherit the dry and rocky land of Edom. You will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. When you grow restless, you will tear off his yoke from your neck." True to this anti-blessing, Israel and Edom would become bitter enemies. And true to Isaac's words, 2 Kings 8 mentions Edom overthrowing Judah and appointing its own king. So Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing his father had given his brother. Presumably, he didn't know Rebekah had a role in this, and he certainly didn't consider that God did.
The time of mourning for my father is near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob.
This hunter was prepared to stalk human prey as soon as his father was dead. When Rebekah heard what her older son Esau had said, she quickly summoned her younger son Jacob and told him, "Look, your brother Esau is planning to get revenge by killing you." The Hebrew says, he comforts himself thinking about killing you. Contrast that with God's heart in Genesis 6, where God comforts himself in sorrow over the violence of the land. Rebekah goes on, "Now then, my son, do what I say. Run away immediately to my brother Laban in Haran. Live with him for a little while, until your brother's rage subsides. Stay there until your brother's anger against you subsides and he forgets what you did to him. Then I'll send someone to bring you back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day?" Well, that little while turns out to be several decades in which Jacob's away in Haran. But now Rebekah has to explain his absence to Isaac. So, then Rebekah said to Isaac, "I am deeply depressed because of these daughters of Heth. If Jacob were to marry one of these daughters of Heth who live in this land, I would want to die." We know from chapter 26 that she is legitimately grieved over Esau's marriage to Canaanite women. Now she uses that as a cover story for sending Jacob to Uncle Laban. Hopefully he'll go up there and find himself a wife or two from our people, which, as we'll see, is exactly what happens.